The first time you boot up your Raspberry Pi, after you've installed your Raspbian operating system on there, the first time you boot it up, you're going to get a screen that looks like what you see here. That's running a tool. It's showing a tool called Raspberry Config. It's a configuration tool. This will pop up the first time you boot, but also you can run it yourself later on if you want to change configuration options, but the first time it pops up. And so you get something like what you see down there. And it gives you a bunch of setup options for the Raspbian operating system. So it runs automatically, and you can see the options. We're going to go through some of these options to give you an idea of whether you want to set, how you want to set these things. You can ignore all these first time if you want to, but let's just go through some of these options. So, expand file system, that's the first one. That reformats your microSD to use the rest of the memory. So what happens is when you first do it, when you first install, maybe your microSD card has a lot, maybe you got a big one, 16 gig or something like that, or bigger, 16 gig. But it won't use that with the initial configuration. When you install the operating system, it gives you the space for, it uses up space for the operating system plus a little more. You won't even see the rest of the card, right? So there'll be lots of memory on the card that you can't use because you can't see from the Linux file system. So if you click on Expand File System, it reformats it so you can use all the memory on the microSD, which is a good idea. Change user password. So change user password does just what it says. So one thing to mention is that this operating system, Linux, it has users. Different users can log in. So you have to type in, when you start up, you have to type in a username and a password. And the username, the one account that it creates is the Pi account, Pi, that's the username. And it comes up with a password. The default password for that account is Raspberry. But you can change that if you want to. So change user password you can do at this stage. The next item is to enable boot to desktop scratch. So what this is that it's what happens when you boot. So when you boot, this is determining what type of interface you get for the operating system at boot time. So there are three options they give you: desktop, console, desktop, scratch. Console is what you see at the bottom left, just the straight text-based interface that we've seen before, we already talked about. That would be console, purely text-based. The next option is desktop. Desktop is the graphic interface that you see bottom right, and that's what you would be used to with your standard operating systems, okay? And I probably recommend that one. The next one is Scratch. Scratch is a programming environment for kids. Let's not use that. It's fine, but my kids have already outgrown it. It's not necessary, I don't think, for our purposes. So it's nice for a kid. It's nice for a kid to learn programming first time, but I'm thinking we're beyond that. So don't use that. But use either desktop or use console. Now, for us, I'm going to assume we're mostly going to go with desktop. Okay, we're going to go with the graphic user interface. You need the console option too, but from the graphic user interface, you can invoke the console. So graphic user interface option, the desktop option, is usually the best, and then you can open a console whenever you want to. Whereas if you just go with console, all you see is a console. Now, so that's what I'm assuming we're going to be doing. The desktop graphic user interface may not be necessary, right? Depends on how you're using this Raspberry Pi. If you're using this Raspberry Pi as part of an IoT device, then you probably don't want the user interacting directly with the Raspberry Pi, so you don't need the desktop option, right? Just a regular old console would be fine in that case. So there are cases where you don't need the desktop, but for us, we're pretty much going to use the desktop to make things easier. Next selection would be internationalization and RASTRAC. So internationalization is basically setting up all these options so default, these is set up for use in the US. So you can change things. You can change the language. You can change the time zone. You can change which you have to do in the US also. You can change the keyboard layout if you want to, things like that. Then I didn't change any of those, just so you know, but I'm in the US. All that stuff was fine for me. RASTRAC is just a service that allows Raspberry Pi users to find other Raspberry Pi users. So it gives the distributor location, your IP address, and from the IP address it infers the location. That's completely optional, and I did not select that, but that's up to you. Thank you.